AV over IP is no longer a future concept. It is here. It is today. Not only is AV over IP evolving, it's also replacing a lot of traditional physical pieces of gear. I am old enough to remember putting in, 16 by 16 and 32 by 32. Good Lord, RGBHV, VGA switchers.
You're just saying words.
Yeah, I know.
You're just saying anything.
I know.
Did you make some of those up?
The dangers of dealing with trunk slammers, the future of AV over IP, and I have a special guest physically with me in studio. All that and more next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 717, recorded Friday, May 16th, 2025. Keep it moving. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of the biggest AV news and insights. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. Here's what's making news across the AV and IT landscape this week. A major international tariff rollback, pro audio acquisition, new privacy features in Teams, Sony expands its Bravia line, and Q-SYS levels up its full stack AV strategy. Let's get into it. U.S. and China have reached a sort of deal. Officials from both the U.S. and China have confirmed a deal to significantly reduce tariffs on hundreds of products, with final terms expected in the next couple coming weeks. Both sides agreed to reduce tariff levels during a 90-day negotiation window. Now, many IT and AV components, especially displays, panels, semiconductors, and cabling materials, could see relief. The U.S. reduced tariffs from 145% to 30%, while China lowered their level to 10%, down from 125%. For integrators and manufacturers alike, this could reduce costs on critical hardware and potentially stabilize supply chain delays that we've been dealing with, quite frankly, for the last 5 or 6 years. Keep an eye on procurement timelines this summer, honestly, because it could be an ideal window to reprice or rebid certain projects. Rode has purchased Lectrosonics. Rode Microphones founder Peter Friedman has acquired U.S.-based wireless audio giant Lectrosonics. The acquisition was personally funded and comes with assurances that Lectrosonics' brand and identity, as well as engineering focus, will remain intact. In addition to bringing Lectrosonics into the Rode family, Friedman indicated the company would be using the U.S.-based manufacturing to build Rode products in the U.S. Microsoft is blocking your screen capturing. Microsoft has announced a new security feature for Teams, blocking screen recording during meetings. This protection will prevent third-party tools and OS-level screenshots from capturing content unless explicitly allowed by policy. For AV pros managing Teams rooms and IT administrators working in corporate or education spaces, this adds a layer of content security, especially in legal, financial, or healthcare environments. It's a step toward making Teams meetings feel more secure without adding additional third-party software. Sony is expanding their Bravia line. Sony has added several new models to its Bravia commercial display line, including more screen sizes and tighter integration with Pro AV workflows. New models offer improved power efficiency, remote management, and SoC, or system-on-chip, enhancements for signage and conferencing. With digital signage and hybrid conferencing booming, Sony's Bravia displays are making a strong case for an all-in-one solutions, especially in education and enterprise. If you're an IT manager or an AV manager, this actually expands your toolkit when designing BYOD-friendly and Teams-certified spaces. And finally, Q-SYS is expanding their full-stack AV platform. Q-SYS announced this week that they have rolled out a major expansion of its platform portfolio, including introducing new control processors, simplified software licensing, and improved video integration. The company says the goal is to further unify audio, video, and control under a single architecture. For AV engineers and IT decision makers, this means fewer compatibility issues, cleaner deployments if you are in the Q-SYS environment, and more headroom to scale AV systems across campuses and enterprise networks. That is your 5-minute AV news brief for the week. Coming up, we are looking at whether you should buy from trunk slammers, the future of AV over IP, and the state of modern work. Stick around, our roundtable starts right after this break. This is AV Week. Welcome back. We've got a unique show this week because for the first time, somebody is joining me in studio. And I say that like we've been doing this for 14 years, and this might be the only time somebody's ever joined me in studio. So we'll get to that in a second. First and foremost, talking about the stories this week, Bren Walker from Kierkegaard. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, Tim. Greetings from Prague. Nice to see you. Great to be here.
Very cool.
Got a little Prague graffiti going on in the background there.
Little Prague graffiti. I like that. Also with us, Mala Reddy from Commercial Integrator. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, nice to be back.
Thank you so much. And with me in studio, right here, is Steph Beckett.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. This was such a fun thing that we just kind of decided we were going to do.
We just decided to do. Yeah, you're in St. Louis for a personal thing.
For a wedding, yeah. A friend's wedding, and didn't have anything going on today. So I was like, you know what? What if I just come?
Why don't you just join you in your physical space to prove people that you're not like, and this is a real studio.
This is a real studio. I can confirm it because I'm here. I'm hearing it right now.
Mazel tov to your friends.
Thank you very much.
All righty. First story. It actually comes from Steph's AV Buyers Club and Rave. Trunk slammers is typically a derogatory statement, but that is what we're going to talk about here today. Typically, that refers to unlicensed or underqualified individuals who, quite frankly, that they operate with very little overhead, sometimes very minimal equipment, and they provide services typically at significantly lower rates than a traditional systems integrator. It is appealing. I get the appeal. Again, I used to be a technology manager 100 years ago for a community college here in St. Louis. I absolutely get the appeal. However, it is crucial for AV professionals and IT individuals, if you are in charge of an installation, you're in charge of a system, you're in charge of your company's AV, to get somebody who's qualified. There's all kinds of reasons why, not least of which would be security concerns, warranty concerns, support after the installation concerns. Steph, we're going to start with you since this is your story. How can AV managers and IT managers, how can they effectively vet those folks that they are giving the request for proposal or the request for information?
Yeah. So first of all, the whole thing, yes, you were right about the appeal of trunk slammers is that the whole thing is they operate out of their car. So they don't have an office. They have whatever inventory they can fit in their trunk. So yes, they're operating very cheaply because there's not a whole lot of red tape to go through. So that is why they are so attractive. But you vet by having licensed, qualified people. You look for qualifications, you look for licenses, because if those people that you're wanting to work with have that, you know that you're getting a product from someone who knows about the product, who knows what they're doing. And the thing about trunk slammers is they don't know. I have a theory, my little conspiracy murder board theory, is that a lot of the AV install nightmares in the AV install nightmare Facebook group, for those who are familiar, those are trunk slammer stuff. Those were not done by somebody.
Not done by a CTS.
No, okay. No. When you see something's hanging on from one cable in the ceiling and held up by a prayer, that was done by someone with a piece of equipment in a dream.
Okay.
And probably wasn't sold by somebody who, you're not getting your equipment from someone who is licensed and qualified to handle that equipment. So then you're going to run into problems. So if you want to be cheap and just get what you need, but not have support and not know that anything's right, sure, do it. I wish you well. But me personally, I'd prefer the peace of mind of going through someone who I know is ready to handle this equipment, who knows what I'm buying, who knows me, who has support built in. Because the thing is with the trunk slammers, once you buy the stuff, they're gone. They're on to the next person that is buying something from their trunk. Right. So,
Bren, I want to bring you on this. Bren and Kierkegaard, they design several systems. They also consult with their client base. So how do you walk through with your client? Because one of the things, the attractive part about trunk slammers is the cost, right? So you've got somebody who is coming in drastically sometimes underneath anybody else, How do you walk them through that process and say, I understand that the bottom line is lower, however, the total cost of ownership might actually end up being higher. How do you walk them through that minefield?
First of all, as she mentioned, qualifications. So if you have your bid process as being a qualifications-based process as opposed to a cost-based process, and you look at cost independent, so review the proposal minus the cost, right, to see what the proposal looks like, and then look at the cost. So you're blind to what the cost is. Number two, anybody coming to you should have, certifications to me are just as iffy on some respects. I'm sorry, but there are some firms certified out there that really do bad integration. Because you can pass a test doesn't mean you know how to put things together. So I say the next thing is references. Anybody who's good is going to have good references. People will vouch for them. If nobody will vouch for them, keep it stepping. The other thing is they should have insurance, and they should be able to produce an insurance certificate with your name on it. If they can't produce that, if they don't have references, keep moving. And really ask your other companies who are bidding to get more competitive in their bids. That's the best way if you're trying to achieve lower costs, but otherwise you're going to get what you paid for. And I've seen this in a lot of worship spaces more than anything else, where it's, someone's cousin, or the guy down the street who does IT at his company, or the brother of the minister of music, or whatever. And if you just go through those steps of qualifications, insurance, references, then you can avoid a lot of issues.
Amala, from commercial integrators side, you guys interview and talk with and network with a lot of systems integrators. When they look at some of the things that they go to market with, whether that's an RFP or their marketing material, some of it is certainly certifications, but also some of it is the authorized dealership part of that, and that is one of the areas. How can companies combat against, somebody who comes in and they can say, yes, I can get the equipment, versus, yes, I'm an authorized dealer? How do you differentiate between, the authorized part and the, I can get my hands on company X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, I think part of the dealership aspect is the partnership aspect. I think a lot of integrators have great partnerships with manufacturers. So it's not just, okay, I can get you the product. It's about what product will suit your needs the most. And I think that's where integrators really have that advantage versus somebody who just says, yeah, I can get the equipment. And I was just reading Steph's article. They get the equipment from Amazon very easily. But is that the right equipment needed for that very project? And I think that's where the integrators have a bigger use case, where they provide through the dealerships or their own partnerships, they provide the services and the products and the integration too. So also just touching upon the cost aspect of it, yes, it might be lower cost, but in the long run, it's not going to be, because it's going to fail at some point, and then you're going to need somebody with a proper certification, license, whatever, to come and fix it again. So that will just increase the cost. So I think these trunk slammers might be good for maybe one-off projects, but even then, at the end of the day, you want somebody who knows their stuff to actually do it for you, so you don't have to keep fixing it again and again.
And one other thing, Tim, is that I think if you ask them whether or not the gear that they can get is A stock, and if they don't know what that means, then you don't do business with them.
That's a good trick. I don't think I knew that one. Okay, A stock. All righty. Next story comes to us from Amala and commercial integrator. AV over IP is no longer a future concept. It is here. It is today. Just like the AV and the IT convergence, it's here. The article was written by our friends over at Kramer and AVWeek. He goes into the fact that not only is AV over IP evolving, it's also replacing a lot of traditional physical pieces of gear. Number one is the video matrix, right? And you've got, I am old enough to remember putting in, 16 by 16 and 32 by 32, good Lord, RGBHV, VGA switchers.
You're just saying words.
Yeah, I know.
You're just saying anything.
I know. But anyhow, You've got a whole bunch of standards coming out. You've got IPMX, which
Yeah.
if you want to know my opinion about IPMX, you can grab me at Infocom, buy me a cup of coffee, and I'll tell you my opinion about IPMX. Not quite ready for prime time. That's the short version of that. But you've also got a whole bunch of stuff going on. Amala, when it comes to the AV and the IT manager and adapting or adopting these protocols, these over IP protocols, how are they managing, quite frankly, the infrastructure? There's two general schools of thought, and there are several more in here. One is a private network, where this just lives on it. One is putting it on the production land or the public network. But how are they walking through this and working with their systems integrators to decide which way is the most ideal way to go?
Oh, that's a great question. Actually, I wish my coworker Alyssa was here because she did a deep dive on AV over IP, where she interviewed integrators and consultants on how they are actually implementing AV over IP in a bunch of spaces. And she did mention in the deep dive, first of all, I just want to mention AV over IP is just taking over 70.2% of the survey that we conducted. 70.2 have already adopted AV over IP, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Like you said, Tim, it's not just the future, it's here. When it comes to infrastructure, I remember one of the comments that we got from a respondent was their biggest concern was putting everything on one infrastructure, because they said, what if one switch goes off? That means I have 10 times more faculty being mad at me versus just one room or another room uh, being mad about things going down. So I think that was one of the biggest concerns when you have a big network infrastructure. Before we even get to private and public, it's like, do we want to build everything on one infrastructure, where if one thing goes wrong, the whole thing goes down? For the public and private, I think again it comes down to what a lot of integrators are saying. It comes down to the needs. I think in spaces of corporate and enterprise, it makes more sense to have a private infrastructure because of the security and data concerns within the infrastructure that we're using all those AV over IP switches to uh, process all that data. So you have to have security on top of it. Public, I'm trying to remember what we did in our deep dive. Again, Alyssa is you should actually check out our deep dive on commercialintegrator.com. You can really get into it. But I think a lot of them were talking more about the security aspect of it, of building it on the private infrastructure.
Bren, walk me through quite frankly, the advice you would give to a client as they're considering putting in AV over IP, as they're considering migrating to AV over IP. What are the considerations when they're saying, okay, this is the direction we want to go? I guess the best way to ask this is, what do they need to know and what decisions do they need to make?
So the first thing is that AV traffic is not IT traffic, right? And understanding that they're different, which is why they should always be on their own network. And we only specify being on its own independent network, period. It's once you put it on a broader network, you introduce a lot of factors that I think can lead to failure, basically, or lead to vulnerabilities, right? So and the 70% plus number is not surprising. This is here, right? It's not a coming, it's a here thing in my view. And I also don't see it as an extension of IT. I see IT as being something that is underlying what we do, the same way IT will underlie, systems at a hospital, right? But those hospital systems don't consider themselves necessarily a part of IT. And this is a sort of a thing for me that I feel like is important for AV to take its own space up in this regard, and to not see ourselves as being secondary to IT somehow, or that we are the lesser in that conversation. And the best way for us to rise on that is for more people in AV to get educated about how networks are put together, how protocols work, and how the data they send is different, and whether or not what their tolerance is for latency. And that's another conversation we have with clients. It's depending on what the application is. What is the tolerance for latency? Obviously, in performing arts, it's zero tolerance, right? Like you just can't have latency in the system. In some other cases, you can get away with, some latency, but it's still nothing that would be noticeable to the person. And a live show would be noticeable to someone. So it's the only way at this point. It is the best way to go at this point, right? In terms of what your future is going to be about and what you should be putting in terms of fiber and wire in order to make it happen.
Steph, there's an awful lot of protocols.
Oh yes, there are.
You can call it the flavor of AV over IP.
They're endless.
So what advice would you give as somebody who has seen all of these various protocols? And I pick on IPMX a lot because it's the most up and coming one.
Yeah.
I've told them that it reminds me an awful lot of AVB. That's just my 2 cents.
What is AVB?
Exactly.
Should I know what that is?
No, you should not.
Okay. Was that here when I've been here?
It was not.
Okay.
A very similar protocol that was open source. They tried to make it a thing, and then they ended up not making it a thing.
Okay.
So, how do you choose a direction to go? How do you choose a flavor to not only future-proof your system and your company's system, because you're choosing a protocol for the next several years? This is not a one-off. This is, okay, we're going to go with brand A or protocol B. But that's going to be the protocol we go down the road for several years. So how do you make that decision based on what we know today or what we're going to see at Infocom or what we're going to see at ISE?
Right. Well, again, I think we've talked about this before. I'm never in the business of telling someone what they should use. I don't get paid for that. I don't know that. I don't install things myself. So my advice, because there are so many options out there, there's not necessarily a wrong one. There is just the right one for your project. So if you are a Crestron campus, a Crestron office, obviously maybe you're going to pick Crestron for your AV over IP, sending your signals. Yeah. If you're an Extron campus, you're probably going to want Extron's version of that. Of course, if you do a lot of broadcast, there's an option for you there too. We have ST2110, and then IPMX was built off of that infrastructure, but like you mentioned, IPMX is open. And the great thing about IPMX is that even if this could have some really, really good implications for our industry, because if you do have an HD base T existing system, you can use IPMX to convert it without getting rid of all of your old stuff. So I think this could be really great for education, where necessarily they don't have the money to just if they decide they want to put it on the network one day, they can't necessarily afford to buy every single little thing to put it on the network tomorrow. But they can probably afford, the switcher from IPMX, or not the switcher, but the equipment from IPMX, with using that protocol to convert what was on Cat 6 over, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes complete sense.
Which I didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Until recently. I learned that on a webinar the other day. So this has some really good potentials for our industry. It's just kind of about the things, is everyone going to open their protocol so that IPMX can use, there's still things that they're running into so that it can't quite be a completely open standard. There's still red tape everywhere. So that's the biggest problem with it. It can be an open standard all at once, but open goes two ways.
Yeah.
So
and the
I know you said you didn't want to get into that right now,
no. So here's the thing though. You've got, I mentioned the fact you have several flavors, and you mentioned two of the bigger ones, NVX with Crestron and NAV with Extron. But every other major manufacturer has their own version.
Yep.
Has their own flavor.
Yep.
You've got the folks at SDVOE, which when they came out promised interoperability, which is one of the promises of IPMX.
Yes.
You also got Dante and Dante AV, which again promises interoperability. The problem with both of those, and again, this goes back to my issue with IPMX,
is they have to be in their little group.
They do.
To do it.
Yeah, they do, because regardless...
They have to be an adopting member or a contributing member or whatever level in order for it to be interoperable. It's not interoperable with everybody. It's interoperable with select few.
Yes. And you have to do certain things, and you have to do certain things, and you have to not add other things.
Yes. Yeah.
That most of these manufacturers typically do to
Yes.
make themselves special, to make
Yeah.
to give a differentiator. And I understand the differentiating part. Don't throw things at me. But you know, I get the differentiating part from a marketing standpoint. But good God, if you're adopting a protocol that one of the main tenets of it is interoperability, and you do something to break that interoperability,
Then you're screwed. Everything's messed up.
yes.
So like read the fine print, I think is what we're saying here. Like when it says interoperable, like what interoperable with who?
Yeah.
With whomst is the question here.
It's the ecosystem.
Yeah, like whose ecosystem are we interoperable with? So like, yeah, if you're putting everything on the network, there's a lot of research to be done. And I cannot, you know, and you probably cannot tell them like which one's going to be the right one, but look at the other things that you're using on your campus, in your corporate office. Like there's typically going to be an option that's going to work best for you. If you are using all the companies in SDVOE's contributing and like members, there's a ton of them now. Like chances are that's going to be a great one for you. But you know, don't be getting too personalized with it, because that's when things break. But if you're very Crestron loyal, very Extron loyal, naturally those are going to be choices. So there isn't anything wrong. There's just like easier.
I think the answer is pick the one you know how to support or that you can afford to support, right? Because whatever comes along, eventually you're going to have to support it somehow, and you need to understand what it is you're working with, like any other kind of software.
All right. I think that's going to do us. We're going to do one on AI, but I've run out of time, and quite frankly, I've run out of energy to do anything on
Breaking news, AI's in everything now.
We love AI. Yay. It's everywhere.
AI is the equivalent of, remember when everybody was starting to live stream around COVID? And so in every description was, you can see this on the go. You can hear this quote on the go.
Yeah.
AI is that now. AI is not a differentiator, folks.
No, it is.
It's not, and I said this. I think I said this on one of your shows, Steph.
Probably.
That I thought I was concerned going into ISC that we were going to see AI everywhere and slapped on everything. I did not. I was wrong.
You know where that was though? Enterprise Connect.
Yes, 100%.
AI everything. Oh, look at this new agentic AI.
Yes.
Shut up. Don't piss me off.
Just do it. Just do it. Don't talk about it. Just do it.
Just show it to me, right? Yeah. All right. Thank you all so much. Bren Walker coming to us from Prague. Thank you, ma'am. How do people connect with you or Kierkegaard?
Connect with me, Bren, at Kierkegaard.com, and very rarely, although a little more lately, on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is asking people to make videos, and they're becoming more like other social networks where they're sucking up our attention and not paying people for their content. So, yeah, I'm kind of there talking about that. In solidarity with the content creators and the creative people. Don't give your stuff away. Bren at Kierkegaard.com.
Bren actually posted a very lovely article, I guess, about a week ago, so about the authenticity connection. So yeah,
that's good stuff.
it was really good. Amala, thank you, ma'am. How do people connect with you or Commercial Integrator, and how do we follow along? Because you'll be going to Orlando as well.
So definitely I will be at Infocom. If you see me running around with a bag from booth to booth, you know that's me. Or following Dan Ferrisi behind. Yep, we will. Actually, the whole Commercial Integrator team is going to be at Infocom. So please find us there and say hi. But me personally, you can reach me on LinkedIn and on commercialintegrator.com. Just go to our website. You'll find us there. And please do check out, again, the AV over IP deep dive. I think it might be interesting for a lot of folks to read, given our whole discussion. And see you soon.
Oh, yes. See you soon. Steph, thank you, ma'am. Thanks for coming by.
Of course. Thanks for
Physically in
having
person,
me.
yeah.
If you can connect with me, any really social media is fine. I'm Steph Beckett on everything. Again, I'm like a little more active on LinkedIn than I used to be because like it's kind of like the most authentic one now, which is so weird. But anyway, if you want to read rave stuff, we are ravepubs.com. That is a little bit more of our integrator facing news. And then avbuyersclub.com is our end user facing news site. So you can pick your poison.
Yeah. For me, for Tim Albright, don't follow me anywhere. If you're interested in things that I write about that have nothing to do with AV, you can connect with me on LinkedIn because, like Steph said, it is the most authentic thing right now. But go by the website, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. Mitchell was very busy while I was in Madrid for Crestron Masters. So we have a brand new AV Career Mastermind where Jen actually is talking about attending InfoComm for the first time. So you can check that out. I mentioned Madrid. I just got back from Crestron Masters, so you'll be seeing some content from me coming out of there. I did become certified in something, Modern Work certified, so that was a lot of things.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah,
did not involve a
congrats.
test. It did not involve a test. I want to point that out. It did not involve me taking a test. So
you are certified to work modernly?
What is it? Hey, you have a studio. That's as modern as you're gonna be.
I do have a studio, but I didn't do it. So
But you're running it.
This studio is 90% Mitchell's idea and 10% a whole lot of fine folks at CTI putting it together.
Yeah,
So
love that.
yeah, not me. But yeah, you can check that out as well at AVNation.tv. We are also heading to Orlando for InfoComm 2025. By the time this posts, our preview stuff will start posting on the website. So you can check that out as well. If you're watching this and you're tired of seeing me, you can just listen to us at your favorite podcatcher. Or if you're listening to us and you want to see what stuff looks like in my real life, I don't know how that works.
Bad.
Oh, stop it. You can go by the YouTubes and check us out there. So either way, go opposite direction, but go by the website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
This is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.